Recording.
Right, that's everybody. All right, so Jim, you're now our de facto chair,
Yes.
vice chair by attrition. So I'll let you take it away.
All right. Do we have an agenda that you could pop up?
Yeah, give me just a sec here.
There we go. So with all present, I'm going to call the meeting to order through a roll call. Amy, do you
Okay.
lead that, or Daniel, do you?
I lead it. Yeah.
Okay.
So Mike Abate,
Here.
Jim Bauer,
Here.
Chan Griggs.
Here.
We have a new member, Julie Hoy.
Here.
Jan Calloway.
Here.
Jeremy Miller.
Here.
Michael Slater.
Here.
Great. All accounted for.
Great.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. So since we do have a new member, it would be worth our while to have our Salem mayor introduce herself. If you could take just 5 minutes, and then maybe everyone else could introduce themselves to Mayor Hoy. And
Well,
do you want to
thank
be
you.
called Mayor Hoy in this meeting, Julie, or do you want to be called Julie in this meeting?
I can be called Julie. That's just fine. Thank you so much. And I'm just glad to be here. I'm learning a lot. It's been 1 month today since I became the mayor of Salem, and it feels like a year. But that said, I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to learning all about what it is DAS does and how I might be of service. So thank you.
Can we quickly just go around for everybody in case they haven't met Julie and could introduce themselves?
Sure,
Jeremy?
Julie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
If somebody can kick it off. Go, Mike.
Thanks. Mayor, my name is Mike Abate. I'm a landscape architect. I've been a landscape architect for 30 plus years, and just recently was the designer of the new Vietnam Memorial on the corner of Cottage and State there.
Wow, great job.
Thank you.
Michael.
Oh, Mike Slater, Planning Commission.
Jeremy.
Hello, Mayor. Jeremy Miller. We met just a week or so ago in your office
Oh yeah, that's right. Good to
When-
see you, sir.
with Das. Good to see you.
Okay.
Chain.
You guys know each other. Yeah. John.
Hi, my name is Jan Kailovite. We have not met, but I've seen your signs during the campaign. I live in the Grand neighborhood immediately north of the Capitol, and for a day job, I work for ODOT as an operations and policy analyst.
Nice to meet you.
Jim.
Jim Bauer, and I live in Salem. I work for Salem Health, and previous to that, I was at Willamette University for 24 years, and I'm presently getting ready to put you up for a nomination to be the chair, since you are the mayor of Salem. But for now, I'll lead the meeting until we move on.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, we should introduce Amy. Amy's the most important person.
Hardly. I'm Amy Kruger. I work with DAS. I am executive support for Shannon Ryan and Jeremy Miller, but I also support CPC and CPAB and wear a lot of different hats. So I'm here, and hi, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
So, Mayor, we've met. My name's Daniel Christensen. I'm a planner at DAS, working capital planning at EAM, and I'm the administrator of the Capital Planning Commission. And so I'm your conduit for all things procedural and otherwise related. So we'll be in contact frequently as we move forward. So thank you again
Awesome.
for agreeing to this.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
All right, so everyone's been introduced. For lack of any other, I think we move to the next item on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me pop up my little Prezi here. Just so we have a guide.
Very fancy, very nice, Daniel. Or is that Amy?
She can take credit, but I did it.
Say this one's Daniel.
Okay, so just kind of run through our agenda. So we need to do officer elections with, we lost our chair, obviously. So we need nominations for both a chair and a vice chair. And just as a reminder, these are 2-year terms. Right now, currently, we have the chairs open and we have Jim as the vice chair. We're going to take nominations for both. And
I'll
I just want to say that, just a minute, I just want to say that, just to reiterate, the expectations of both officers and in general members is one, attending meetings is kind of the expectation. So we have quorum. And for the case of the chair and vice chair, your role is really to maintain the meeting order and productivity and to interpret and enforce administrative rules and to coordinate with DAS staff on procedures. So me, and then the chair is, I think, positioned as a sort of the primary CPC representative. If there's sort of some external things that we could utilize the mayor as, or the chair, sorry, didn't want to get ahead of myself here, as the sort of a representative of that. So, and that's been historically the case. So without further ado, I think we should open it up to some nominations for who wants to occupy the officer positions for 2 years.
I revealed my earlier plan here, but I would like to nominate Mayor Julie Hoy for the chair position with all the support she needs to be successful.
I will second that motion.
Thank you both.
You can thank us later. So are we going to vote these separately, Daniel? Probably
We
should
can do that. I think we've done it before where we've done it like as a group. This person is this person is that, but do we have any other nominations for chair?
Yeah, I think you should do them separately, because if I nominate Jim for vice chair, he wouldn't want to include that in his own motion.
Got it. Okay, so we have any other nominations for chair before we proceed with voting on the chair position? Okay. Well, let's vote on just that. What? I heard something.
I was just going to say, we move to vote for, to a vote.
Yeah, so we need a motion to vote and then on the nomination. And then we'll move to the nominations for vice chair and then a motion to approve that. So
I call for the vote on the motion to approve Julie Hoy as chair.
Seconded.
All right. So for all those, well, Jim, you can go call the vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
Go Julie.
Julie is our nominee.
Yeah, and I would like to make a motion to move Jim Bauer as continuing his role as vice chair for the capital planning commission.
Second.
I'll second that.
Yeah, there we go.
Thanks.
Okay. And there's no other nominations? Just to check. Doesn't sound like it. All right. So we have a motion to reinstall Jim Bauer as vice chair of the capital planning commission. Do you want to have a motion for a vote, or are we ready to vote? Forgot. Yeah, we have a motion for a vote. So let's take a motion for a vote and then we'll vote.
Well, I just called for the vote, so we can vote.
And I'll
Okay.
second that.
All right. So let's have the vote.
All
Jim.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we move to the vote of the slate, right?
Yes.
So we now have a
So-
slate of chair for a 2-year term, Mayor Julie Hoy, Vice Chair for a 2-year term, Jim Bauer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations, Chair Hoy. I'm going to turn the mouse over to you.
Oh, my word. Well, where do we go from here? I'm just looking at the agenda.
I
It
think
looks
it's
like,
the CPC administration.
I just have one quick question. There were too many people who said second on the motion to call the vote for Jim Bauer to be nominated for vice chair. Was that Jan or was that Mike or was that Michael?
And I don't think you really need a second or a vote. If somebody calls for the vote, I think it just moves to the vote under Robert's rules, but
Just wanted to, somebody seconded a motion, and so I wanted to make sure I captured it properly.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't Jan. Okay, then I will go with that. Thank you.
Pick a Mike or a Michael.
Gotcha.
Doesn't matter.
I'm good. Carry on.
Okay. All right. So next on the agenda, and you can just defer to me, Mayor, that I can drive a little bit of this stuff. Next up was, so a little context, we recently remodeled the executive building, and DAS did, and that was actually Jeremy's project, and he will speak to that. And part of that was, oh, never mind. I was kind of stalling because our presenter hasn't joined yet. So I was just filling. Let me see there's Peg. All right, Peg. So you just just like clockwork, you came in just as we were ready for you, just like we planned. So right now I'm sharing my slide deck, but do you want to share your slides or do you want me to drive?
I'll drive if I can figure out how to bring it up. I usually work on Zoom, so I'm sure
Yeah.
it's not too complicated. Here it is. I see it.
Yeah, it's
So Daniel, maybe I should just give just a quick background of the project. while
Yeah, that'd be great.
Peg's getting herself. We have some newer people here. So the executive building, everybody knows, I believe, is 155 Cottage Street. It's where our DAS leadership director, deputy director, all work from. It's just to the west of the state capitol. So we started planning on a revitalization of this facility 10 years ago and just working through legislation to try to get the funding. We received the funding. We've made an approximately I think it came out to $52 million investment. And that is the whole interior was seismically upgraded to life safety. We made improvements to light equity, functionality as far as shared seating, hoteling. We're inviting legislatures and other people throughout the Oregon state government to utilize the building. So it's according to Jones Lang LaSalle, a company that helped us develop it, and they're helping us find the analytics of how we're utilizing it. We're one of the first state office buildings to take this leap into the future of offices. So it's very exciting to us. So the reason that Peg was so kind to come is I personally had a misread in some statute, which when we do art, we have the 1% of art for every capital construction project. The CPC is afforded the opportunity to join that art selection committee. And I misinterpreted it as, you need to come present, Peg. And she was nice enough not to call me out on it too loudly. And so she's bringing it to us to see. And this is a public facing piece of art. So we have art on the exterior of the facility as well as the interior, whereas the CPC focuses mostly on the exterior. We thought it would be nice to share with our neighbors what art is being selected for the executive building. So,
Yep.
Peg.
Thanks, Jeremy. Can you see my cover slide?
Not yet.
No.
not yet. You gotta hit there's a share button. You see that?
Okay, I thought I had. Hold on.
Yeah, we got it now.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep,
There we go.
there we go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and after that conversation with Jeremy, I thought about the statute a little bit, and it was a little bit of a miscommunication where the Capital Planning Commission wasn't invited to have a selection committee member if they wanted to. So if you had been, you would be part of the whole process. So I wanted to bring you all of the projects just to kind of get you up to speed on what's been selected and about the selection process as we've been going through it. So I'll just start on my opening slide there. So I think I started working on this process with DAS. I'm going to look at my slides a little bit as I do this. Before the first committee meeting, and then we had a hold. So I think we actually started working with Karen Green, maybe it was April 2023. And then we finally got the first committee member together in October of 2023. So 9 voting members and 2 non-voting members. I'm the non-voting chair, being the representative from Oregon Arts Commission on the committee. So we worked through the budget, and we had a $302,000 for acquisitions is the way it worked out to be. And so I'm going to back up a little bit and just talk about the committee process at that time. So the committee got together, they learned about the process, showed them the admin rules, what are their options for going through a selection process. And they decided to choose the request for qualifications using the interview process for artists, which means they would send out a request for qualifications, and I'll show you a little bit of one in a minute. An artist would submit their qualifications and then get shortlisted to interview with the committee. The committee decided to consider interior and exterior commissions. At first, we were thinking 1 interior and 1 exterior. And those commissions were, I think at that time, about 180,000 exterior and 90,000 interior. But it ended up, because of some money switching around, we had a little bit of extra money. So we also selected a 3rd interior artist, and I'll tell you more about that. So 100 artists responded to the request for qualifications. So the committee went through a couple of meeting process to narrow that down. Let's see, looking at the artists' portfolios, resumes, and then once shortlisted artists, three artists were shortlisted for exterior and 3 for interior. And then they were interviewed by the committee about their past work, not about a proposal at that point. So basically, the final artists who were commissioned were hired via an interview process to be contracted to then go through a concept and then design development process as the commissioned artists on contract. So the committee selected 3 artist teams for commissions, and Lillian Pitt and team were awarded a commission of $90,000. Sarah Seastream was awarded a $32,000 commission, and the Wakanim Artists Collaborative was awarded a commission for exterior for $180,000. I just want to do a little introduction to the artists, just quickly. Lillian Pitt and team. Lillian Pitt is a Pacific Northwest Native American artist whose ancestors lived in and near the Columbia River Gorge. She is an elder artist. The focus of her work is on creating artworks that honor the history and legends of her people. And Sarah Seastream is a Hannis-Kus tribal member, born and raised in Oregon. Her artwork combines the ceremonial traditions of her ancestors with new materials at the intersection of social and ecological justice, education, and Indigenous feminism. The Wakanim Artist Collaborative changes a little bit from project to project. It always has Sherrod Yunker, who's the kind of ringleader, and he brings together Native artists to work on projects and then hopes to have a younger artist apprentice and learn Native traditions through the collaborative work. So he's very much about education. So Sherrod Yunker is Coquille Coos, Umpqua artist from Coos Bay, Oregon. He currently works as a traditional carver and sculptor. He lives in Portland. Earl Davis, who is working on the project with him is an artist and carver and a member of the Shoalwater Bay Tribe in Tokeland, southwestern Washington on the Pacific Coast. In the beginning of the selection process, it was brought to the committee's attention that there is a mural in one of the conference rooms in the executive building that is, I don't have the historical document, the document in front of me that describes the mural, but there are some controversial elements to it, and that was, basically relating to the native tribal people and how they were represented. And so there was a little bit of discussion about would we have an artist do a mural in an adjacent conference room to kind of talk back to that mural. And then as the committee discussed the process further on, they decided to basically commission all Native artists to do all the work for this project. And so it's a really great opportunity to showcase the work of these Native artists. So I'll just go through and show you. I don't know if you've already seen this. Yeah.
Yeah, quick question, Mayor Roy, can I address her with a question?
Yes.
Two questions. In doing that, and by making that decision, how will we memorialize that over time, that decision, so that later someone doesn't say, well, why was there not Hispanic art as a part of this? Do you understand what I mean? The decision to go with only Native artists because of trying to basically help this difference between the old art and the new art. Over time, will there be a way that we can say this is why it was done this way, so that the next time we do this, someone doesn't go, well, why weren't Hispanic artists represented in this?
Will it be represented? I'm not sure. There's always signage with art. When currently there's no plan there, signage usually gets discussed further along. But usually it is basically a descriptor about the art as it's placed in didactic text about that. They went through the selection process like any other artist would, and they got selected in the decision. So they were vetted as artists, and their work is beautiful. And so I don't know that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just not a worry. I'm just curious. And then the other thing is more of a comment, not a question, but to everyone in our group, if we were to have been on this selection committee, we would have been a non-voting member. Isn't that correct, Peg?
No.
Our representation is as a non-voting member?
Not necessarily. You could have been, you could have been either. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. I've been on, I worked on the Supreme Court building. We had a voting member from the commission on that project. So I will just present the three projects, and they're in the conceptual proposal phase. So they're pretty sketchy. Basically, this is the artist's first chance at providing what their ideas are to create art. They've had about 2 months to do some research and sketch out ideas. And at this point, it's not a fully developed, buildable project yet. They present their kind of scheme to the committee, and the committee likes it enough to say, yes, go forward and develop your design. And then we'll meet with the artist again in 2 months with their fully formed ideas about how they're going to build the thing. So when it comes to public art, there's a lot of room for creativity, but what we need to focus on in the design development phase is how the thing will be built. What's the safety factors, and what is the structure? If something needs structural engineering, that all gets kind of attended to at the design development phase. So we're not there yet. Some of the ideas are a little bit rough, and they basically are getting the thumbs up to move forward with the ideas that they've come forward with. So this is, I'm going to show you a couple of pages of the RFQ that we sent out to generally widely. So this is kind of a standard template for Oregon Arts Commission. Request for qualifications. We do a little bit of description about the project, And the committee will often think about eligibility. This one, they decided open to artists who reside in Oregon, California, Washington, Alaska, Idaho, and Montana. Artists from traditionally or currently underserved communities, including but not limited rural communities and communities of color, are especially encouraged to apply. Okay, so the budget, and the one I wanted to show you is through discussion and whiteboards and all kinds of things, we end up narrowing in on themes, values, and goals for artwork. And so for this one, these potential themes, values, and goals are what helped direct the committee to their selection process. Confluence, coming together while retaining autonomy, Indigenous present and future, a connection to deep history of place, geologic time, inclusivity, equity, justice, accessibility to democracy, creating connections across community. The art could be, these are things that they should consider. They don't have to do every one of these bullet points. This is what they consider as they're developing the art. So a something that is thought-provoking, might inspire curiosity and open-minded inquiry, creates pathways for reflection and learning. Future-oriented possibilities, less memorializing, more world-building, reflects upon Oregon's natural environment. And again, no one is expected to hit every one of these bullet points. If they do, that's totally fine. But they're just things for artists to consider when they're developing their ideas. Okay. And then we went on to choose some proposed locations. And then sent out the call and got 100 responses, which is a lot of responses. And so here in this plan view are where the proposed artworks will go. Here outside, the Wakanum team is proposing a large sculpture here and a couple of other locations that this sculpture kind of responds to. Initially, they were thinking they would have a second portion that would be along the parking garage edge. But the timing of that might be not work out because that parking lot is going to be renovated when they are going to be wanting to install their art. So they'll be thinking about, we're meeting there next Tuesday. We'll be thinking about those locations. The pit team, they will be creating art in this vestibule here. So as you walk across the upper parking level into the second floor of the building, you go through this tall glass entranceway, and their artwork will be there. And Sarah Seastream was originally going to do a 2D wall. She was commissioned originally to do a 2D wall piece on this wall, but we found out because it's a ballistic wall that in her work is somewhat heavy, that installing something on that wall wasn't going to be able to happen with the small budget that she has. So she's proposed instead kind of a work encased, and I'll show you what that means, but most likely it'll be over here. This is a glass wall here, and we're going to check that out for sure on Tuesday. So hopefully that spot will work for her. So what I'm going to show you here is the 3 proposals that the artist presented in his concept proposal. There may be some gaps, and a lot of the narrative was discussed verbally in the presentation. So I kind of did my best to bring their language together so they could tell the story. I can't tell the story as well as they can. So Lillian, she's in her 80s. She's been making art in Oregon for a long time. You've surely seen her work around the state. You want to just read that, or I'll just read the bottom part where her art often features themes reminiscent of her heritage. She likes to remind people of our shared connection to nature and the land. And this is Celilo Falls. Her parents when they were growing up, lived on either side of the Columbia out near La Grande. No, not La Grande, The Dalles. So in their team, they have metal workers, glass workers. Lillian works in many mediums or media. And so their idea for this project is this is the vestibule as you enter it, and it's got a bit of a high ceiling there. And this is inside the vestibule. You can see in the back there is another window that looks into this vestibule from a small conference room. So their artwork is going to hang in the space sort of like this. Again, this is very rough concept phase. The size and shape most likely will change a little bit, but overall, this is the idea they're presenting. And so they've sketched out what the forms might be, what the materials might be, and how they might work. And so they're calling these metal forms pods at the moment, and they respond to unknown caller. They respond to water and flow and the kind of the cycle of life. And they were saying in their presentation that the metal will not be as visible as it is in this rendering. That was just sort of their rough way of envisioning their initial concepts. The story is mostly about the salmon and respecting the salmon because it is so meaningful to Columbia River tribes. How it is such a force of spirituality and food sustenance and sustainability. And so they're going to have glass fish with iridescence and various color forms that will be hanging within these pods and kind of swimming around in these pods. And also they'll be having glass beads that represent salmon eggs. Each pod hosts a vibrant ecosystem where light and movement evoke underwater life. Each pod includes 5 fish and multiple smaller elements. Durable, lightweight materials ensure structural integrity. You can see in this one, you can see the way that the eggs might hang in an early idea. So, and they'll be luminescent. And these are early models of what their fish might look like, 12 inches long, maybe. So super rough, but it can give you a general idea of what they're thinking in that space. You can imagine that there'll be some nice shadow play happening because of this artwork on the white wall behind here and in the space, especially with the glass elements reflecting light in and around the walls there. Should be super lovely. And Sarah Seastream, similarly, her project is about salmon and fish and sustenance and just how much a container means to a community. So she is presenting some basket works that she has woven and made in different ways. She talked about the importance of salmon and her culture, and then presented the research and some existing works of her baskets that she's made over the years that could be represented, or might even be some of the same baskets that will be in her installation inside the lobby. Some of these baskets, and I wish she were here to describe it because she does a lovely poetic talk about the different materials that they're made of and the processes that go into their creation. Some of them are clay, some of them are computer printed, digitally printed, and there's just a lot of integration of modern culture and sort of ancient culture thinking. I think this is the 3D printed one. This is the clay, and this is the hand woven, I think, cedar basket. Here's a slip cast ceramic basket that has some gold around the edges, and she was talking about reflectivity, and you can see yourself and your culture and your activities as you look inside that. And this one has some Xerox transfer on it of the ancient oysters that used to be in the area where her people are from that are now not there anymore. Now it's more of an invasive oyster that lives there, and these older oysters have no longer are there. So she there's a really interesting storyline that goes through her work. So, and then she was talking about showing what the framework of presentation could be. And so it will have a similar aesthetic, but different sizing than this, maybe a board, a wooden base and an acrylic top form will be in the lobby. And this is how, an idea of how it would be built. Oops, I thought there were two of those. So that size is going to change because where she thought it was going to go isn't available. So it probably will be narrower. And the Wakanim team with Earl and Sherrod. So the story that they want to bring to their work is Coyote Releases the River. It is an old ancient story of frogs, a Kalapuyan story of frogs that built a dam to stop the river from flowing downstream so they could have a lake. So the frogs dammed the river and kept the water to themselves. Coyote, who is a trickster and a very active metaphor being, seeing this injustice, tricks the frogs into letting him get a drink of water in exchange for a very large shell of dentalium that he had. And I think that I have some images of what that is. And a shell that is used as currency that the coyote had. He told the frogs that he would give them that if they let him drink. And while he was drinking and while the frogs were mesmerized by the shell, Coyote dove down to the base of the dam to take a drink, but also he dug furiously and opened up the dam to allow the water to escape. And the dam breaks and the fish and other animals are then able to use the flowing river to upriver. So the overall lesson of the story is don't keep all the resources for yourself, aka think of others and share. And so that could be written in a bunch of different ways. Basically, don't hoard all the resources. So the coyote, inspired by interior house posts in which carved or painted images would be displayed, be wooden, yellow. They don't know the wood yet. They'll be doing that research now, soon. 8 to 9 feet high, 4-inch depth, so pretty narrow, and 20 inches to 30 inches wide, poured concrete base. Let's see, the base estimated, that's kind of more details than we need right now. Frogs, 5 frogs inspired by, again, carved interior house planks and dentalium. Materials will be stacked plasma cut steel. And the fish, low relief salmon, smelt, eel, sturgeon, and one other water animal they haven't decided on yet. Cast bronze or milled powder, smaller, 18 inches in length by 2.5 inches. These are all suggested, and as they're still working out their design. And so the locations of the frogs and the fish are to be determined, but they had some ideas for those in the beginning. So the coyote would be here, and the frogs would be up here using the parking garage like a dam. And then the other, all of the fish elements were going to be here. And so those are going to change as they get to know. Now that the site is finished, they're going to be able to go there and get a really better idea of what the space is like and have come up with a different idea. So coyote here, a wooden carved creature. You can see his little smile there. He's always a trickster. These again are concept drawings and they will evolve. When we were there for the site visit, you could start to see that one spot would be right around here. I put a red spot there for this meeting. That's right about where that coyote would go. And the frogs, this is from the parking lot. It potentially would be up here. I mean, it's not totally off the table that they might go there. Pretty close to off the table just because of the timing of that parking garage renovation. So these are some images of what the frogs might look like. And they're working with Columbia River tribal iconography and imagery when they're working on these images. So here is ancient carved elements using showing frogs and some dentalium up here. Here are some of their fish images, and you can see the fish in these weavings. These are kind of fish motifs. And so they'll be drawing from old weavings and artworks as they cultivate their designs. So that is the last one. So just wanted to give you a sense of what the artists are thinking and doing. Did I stop sharing?
I have a question, Mayor. Is it okay if I
Yeah.
have a question? I love all three iterations of what are being proposed, and it sounds like the pods are going to be encased. The baskets are going to be encased. So is there any discussion on maintenance of those pods? Because I would not want to be the one to have to clean those sculptures with
The
all their-
pods specifically.
Yes, pods. I'm not worried about the other two, but it is a
I think there was discussion about that in the presentation, and I'm pretty sure it was talked about some light blowing air for dusting, and not like dusting with a duster, but intermittent blowing with a air implement.
Well, yeah. So we just need to make sure that whoever's maintaining that building is aware of the delicacy of that art.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think I'm excited about all three. I think they're pretty good story.
Great. Mike? Oh, you're muted.
I really love it, and I love Lillian's work, and this will be really tremendous. A couple of specific comments, and then maybe more of a symbolic one. The casework for those baskets, and I know this is just a mock-up, but it would be. I don't know if you're planning on this, but it seems like those become architectural elements that have in themselves a visual impression. It's not just the things that are in the cases, but the cases themselves. And they looked, just in the illustration, a little flimsy and all of that. It would be, if there was a way of involving the building architect in that, to use a similar palette of materials and ways of supporting those shelves that are light and not just transparent, but like with hidden connectors and things. I think that would be a nice, the casework itself should be thought of as part of the art, not just a holding vessel for those beautiful baskets. On the exterior, love the graphics of the trickster, but having just been in Stanley Park in Vancouver just a couple months ago, and looking at the totem poles that are collected there that have been, in the weather, some for 20 years, some for less. They are disintegrating, and in Vancouver, BC, they've decided that disintegration is part of the process. And I'm not saying that's the right conclusion, but I just bring to your attention, anything that we put in our environment that's wood is in a process of decay. And so 20 years from now, somebody's going to say, that's not looking really good. What are we going to do? And when wood starts to decompose, there's really not much you can do. So then it becomes a challenge for the public entity to say, oh, okay, well, we're going to take it out or we're not. So I just have some concern about wood elements in the outdoors. But the other piece is more symbolic. It's the executive office building, and we're putting the Trickster right outside. Now, that may be completely intentional, but I'm sure somebody's going to make the connection and wonder, I wonder what they're saying about the executives in the building. So those are my initial thoughts. I love them. I love the pieces. I think they're great. I just have just a couple of thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Should I comment or just keep getting your comments?
I have a question, if I may.
Okay.
On the page about the frogs, this page right here,
Mhm.
I'm just curious, what are the white pieces?
I think that's an example of dentalium when they were talking about the kind of bone-like objects that are money. That
Okay,
was-
thank you so
It's a
much.
shell. It's a shell that was used kind of as broadly for currency.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Mike, we did talk about longevity of the work, and the choice of materials will be wood that is longest lasting. And there they did talk about certain treatments for keeping wood longer. And also, I think in the final report, it should be mentioned what the longevity is expected to be and what down the line is expected to happen to the project as it degrades over time, 20, 40, 60 years, there will be degradation in wood for sure. Anybody else?
Great job.
Thanks.
Thank you, Peg.
Okay.
Oh, can I ask one more question? I'm sorry. I was going to ask a question about process. So it was mentioned that someone from the CPC should have been on the committee. What is going to be done for future projects to ensure that this just kind of mistake doesn't happen again?
Well, from my own project management, I'm a contractor to the state. I mean, so it's up to me to work with the project manager, and we are the ones that develop the committee in the beginning, and the construction project manager from the entity. And so you don't have to be on the committee, but you should be invited to be on the committee if, the CPC.
So, sorry, Peg, I thought you were done.
Go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
was going to
Jake.
say, our project management team, I manage that team. And so we've already put that into our practice and our protocol of a project. So in the future, we always come to the CPC when we're going to do a significant exterior project that will qualify for 1% per art. And so at that time is when we'll be bringing it forward, and then we'll make sure that we have that conversation and see if anybody's interested.
Yeah,
I'd
the only issue with that timing is that when you start a committee, you don't know where the art's going to go. So it would be that any project in the capital zone, the CPC should be invited to have someone sitting on the committee, whether it's exterior or interior. It was mentioned in the beginning of the development process, and then it got kind of fallen by the wayside. So yes, apologize that you did not get an invitation for this one. So wanted to make sure to bring in the loop. And if anybody wants to follow along, maybe the next meeting is a design development review. You can come as an advisory member, a non-voting member, and sit in and then provide comments. Then if you would like, just let me know if you want to be invited to that process, and I'll definitely let you know. And you
I
can.
think Mike would be a good person for that if he's got the time. Mike.
Thanks, Shane. Why don't we connect, Peg, and we can talk, and you can share a little more information. I've got going to be traveling quite a bit this year, so.
Okay, it would be for the next meeting. From now on, there are less and less meetings, and so it'd probably be in 2 months from now would be the design development review.
Okay.
And you want me to just give you a heads up when that's happened, or I can give Daniel a heads up and
Yeah.
he can let you all
If-
know.
Yeah, if you send Daniel an email, then we can just do a communication and just CC Daniel as we go.
Okay,
Great.
sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Thanks for letting me come and tell you about the project. It's really a great group of people, and I can't wait to see their ideas develop. It's going to be so fun. And
Good job.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peg.
Thank you,
you.
Peg.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Mayor Hoy, and Daniel, correct me, or Jim. Jim, aren't you on the Percent for Arts Committee for the Capitol building under
Yeah.
Salem Health?
So I'd like to, well, not at Salem Health, just as a member of us here, but
Okay.
I'd like to comment about this, mostly directed to Jeremy. So, these committees are, all of them are different, how they're constructed. And as we have all seen from time to time, they can be very political because they are involving art and culture. And one of the things that, and I was trying to get this from her, we land on these committees as a non-voting member. I don't know if that matters or not to us. I don't know that it should, but that puts you in a different role in the committee than a voting member. And for instance, on the Capitol, which is involving 10 times as much money as this, it's a very political process. So I'm pleased that I'm not a voting member and that our needs are not needing to be put into that kind of play. But you do have a lot more control. Who makes up the committee that are the voting members is really who determines the process and the art outside of what are the state guidelines. So as we're thinking about it, if we care, when we care, we might want to think about the complexity of how we represent ourselves inside that role as well. And if what I'm saying doesn't is different than what you understand it to be, great. But I have certainly seen it in the work, and there's many a meeting where I frankly I have no role, and so I don't go to some of them because it's just like, well, you're a non-voting member, and that means you're really not a member. And part of that is the stakes that are in play, especially, and I would call it almost politically, in some of these pieces, and who picks them and who's on the committee to pick them. And it can be very divisive. Even in my career, the last thing I wanted to do is be the one to have to pick where art was going or the paint colors in a room. And there's a lot of this when it comes to being on these art committees.
So we have the statute. I was trying to dig for it here really quick. It specifies who does what. Peg has been very open to saying that non-voting members have very strong opinions and that they're allowed to share those and have those debates because it's a process to land on which art we're going to procure in the end. But I'll tell you what, I'll pull that statute up. I'll highlight the sections of who makes up the committees and get that to Daniel to share with all of us. Typically, on a DAS managed project, we have 2 people from our organization. And so through this process, it is now going to be our PCM manager every time, and then a delegate of them, because it reads that it's the director of DAS. And then the director of DAS delegates that to somebody. So we're just making the assumption that that's going to be our construction project manager. And then there are others that are invited in as well as the CPC. So I can't speak 100% whether CPC can be a voting member or not. But according to Peg, she said that is a potential, but I want to evaluate that statute and send you all out a communication.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, Mayor, do we want to proceed to the next topic?
Yes, please, Daniel.
All right, so this is, I want to give Jeremy an opportunity to kind of discuss some of the activity that's going on with DAS projects, and particularly the kind of the nexus around the Capitol Mall and how that leads into our task of doing the area plan development updates. So Jeremy, please feel free to initiate.
Sure. Apologize, since we're not in person, it's going to be more difficult. So, you know, it's easier to see things and have drawings and whatnot in front of everybody. So this is kind of a teaser for the next meeting, if you will. But we're specifically focusing on the Capitol Mall and trying to understand, in partnership with the CPC, the City of Salem, what direction we're headed in so that we can all be rowing in the same direction, if you will. So we currently have a $150 million bond request for full renovation of the Labor and Industry Building. It's right on the Capitol Mall next to the State Library. So that's going to be our next significant project. It's on the governor's approved list, and now we're just letting it run its course through legislation for the final approval. So that's a significant project. We also have the yellow lot. It's the gravel parking lot that you can lose small cars in the potholes occasionally. We are funded to pave that yellow lot. And so that is going to change ADA access, car charging, and it does have an impact to the local community and how we can best utilize that for after-hour parking and whatnot, traffic flow. So we are selling that bond spring of 25, heading into design, and then doing construction summer of 2026. So there's another project that's impacting mall. We also have the infamous real estate building. So
I'm sorry to interrupt for just 1 second.
Yes.
Mayor Hoy, how do you want to handle questions here? If we have questions, should I wait to the end or bring them up by project? have a
What is the protocol in the group? Do you wait? Or I'm fine with as we go along, but I don't want to turn it into something you're not used to.
The protocol is whatever the chair decides. So this is
Yeah.
you.
If you have a question, go right ahead, Mr. Slater.
Okay, thank you. I'm really curious as to the rationale for keeping a parking lot in downtown Salem, especially by the Capitol. That seems like a very poor use of important space, a flat parking lot, and not a lot of value for the surrounding community. Is it really necessary at this point when we have so many remote, remote workers that we keep a gravel or a paved parking lot downtown?
So it's a great question. It's gone full circle over the past decade since I've been with the state, to be perfectly honest. And one of the main reasons why we need to pave the yellow lot is because of ADA accessibility to our buildings in the area. Right now we have limited street parking, and then we do try to have some ADA parking spots in that gravel lot, but it is not a very good situation for those individuals. Plus, we're supporting the governor's direction to have car chargers installed in our parking lots, and this is a good way for us to be able to tie into PGE's system. And we have contemplated, if you recall, what was it, 6 years ago, the Oregon Resiliency Building. We were contemplating building another high-rise building right there on that lot, and then building a parking garage, vertical parking garage on the adjacent lot to that. And we know we don't need that now. So things are evolving. We do have where our parking lots are sold. People are anticipating using their spots. We have quite a few more people starting to come back to the office. We're working through that return to office. Had a meeting on it earlier today and what that looks like. And so we just have to be agile here for a moment. And this was funding requested prior to COVID, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, and so if I may, what steps are you making to ensure that we're not increasing the heat island effect? We're not dealing with some drainage, pollution problems from that space. I just want to make sure, to the extent that we have to have a surface parking lot in downtown, that we have a surface parking lot that minimizes kind of the externalities that come with the surface parking lot.
Absolutely. So it will be, I can tell you it'll be bioswales. We'll follow the local codes for trees. Like, we built a parking lot at the Lottery Building 4 years ago, and frankly, we lost a very large percentage of parking spots because of the canopy that we were trying to create. And we haven't even started engineering it. So we would love to I can reach out to you and hear your concerns and make sure that they get designed into the parking lot, because that's the point of this group. It's very helpful.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Yes.
Jan, I saw your hand. Did you have something?
I lowered it again. Jeremy answered my question. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll follow
Okay.
your lead, Daniel. Go right ahead.
So I just want to say that this is creating some pressure on the Capitol Mall that we're want to kind of resolve in some way, because the Capitol Mall master plan, for which all projects have to follow, is, from 1992. And so this kind of dovetails into our need to sort of kickstart the area planning process. And we weren't really prepared today to go into full kind of array of what that would be, but we weren't kind of tease it a little bit about what is sort of the road ahead. And the first step was, I'll just share my screen real quick. Okay, so I'm just here. So what I did was I made a bunch of workbooks for everybody, so they would have all our rules, statutes, and then every single of one of the area plans in it that's printed, and you'd be able to reference it. I've been meaning to do this for a while, and I actually did it. I was going to give it to you today, but we had snow, so you're just going to have to wait with bated breath until next time, till you get your workbook. But I think you'll be happy with it, because at least gives us that critical kind of referential thing that we've been asking for a long time with our shiny new rules, and at least have some sort of physical representation of these plans that we keep alluding to, but nobody can never find. So this slide deck, until you can have access to your workbooks, I put links to all these plans in here, and you can, on your own volition, look at those and kind of go through them and see if anything, as a matter of homework, just, what are these things and what comprises them. And, our strategy to this point, and it could evolve, but was that our thought was we would initiate the update process by focusing on one area to develop a criteria and sort of test that out a little bit. And it just so happens that we're considering the Capitol Mall is it's sort of the flagship area plan, but we're having this nexus of development pressure, and also it's one of the oldest plans that we have. So it makes sense that that would be something we would use as a way to sort of embark on this process that will be kind of ritualized with agencies moving forward. And so, yes, we want to initiate the process, focus on one area, preferably the Capitol Mall, and we want to revise the plan development process and development criteria. So that's something that in terms of an iteration, it's going to be similar to the rules. I will review our materials. I'll develop sort of some concepts, and we'll come back to you to kind of review and evaluate and whether or not that makes sense. So we're just making progress, and you'll have an opportunity to validate things throughout that process. And I should say, we do have an existing guideline document that's from 2007 that does serve as the sort of a procedural manual for agencies to develop these plans, but it's largely going to be rewritten. And if you look at the plans and you have a chance to kind of review them in preparation for any kind of discussion we have, but most of the plans are developed around controls of standards. And there's very little in the way of kind of action or priority for agencies, so we're basically establishing what we don't want or do want in a specific way. And it doesn't show any kind of well, if you look at, here's the existing plan template, there's this kind of introduction about the purpose of it, but then you get into these very simple principled kind of plan sections where you're looking at existing conditions and the infrastructure and the transportation. And largely what those plans do is they look and they itemize those things and they inventory them on some level, but there isn't sort of a critical analysis about whether or not the circulation plan resolves any kind of future need or whatnot. So these are the kind of things that are weaknesses in those plans that allow them to serve as kind of a longstanding policy document. Like, we don't want this, but they don't serve as a way to have kind of ritual interaction that would spur their update, but also serve as, an important kind of impetus to agencies to develop their properties. And so, yeah, there's site data, there's development management policies, there's design standards, and there's a land use plan. And these are very simplified versions of what would go into a plan, but I think we can do a better job. It's about how do we arrive at what that would be. And Mike, you have your hand. I'll go ahead and take your question.
Yeah, I'm trying to lower it. Here we go. Thanks, Daniel. First of all, the binders that you've created, I'm in Portland. Is it possible that you could just mail them to us before our next meeting?
Absolutely. It's actually a great idea. I'm just sort of adjusting to today. So yeah, absolutely. We'll throw those in the mail.
That'd be great, because I'd love to jump into it. And, I think I've been on the commission 2 years now. And this is exciting to me, but I didn't realize that the CPC actually develops these plans, right? And I'm assuming we get support from consultants, or how does that work?
What happens is the CPC reviews and adopts the plans, but they can be involved in the planning process. But the agencies are responsible for doing the work, and whether or not that's hiring a consultant or utilizing their own resources. But what we're proposing right now is the plan to plan. So developing the criteria, what goes in the plan, where agencies would take that and then either work with a consultant or do it themselves. And it has to have these sort of components that need to be addressed to be, accepted by the commission.
But you
Jeremy?
said the agency has a responsibility. So in the case of the Capitol Mall plan, what is DAS the agency that has the responsibility?
It would be a joint project. It would be a joint project because OPRD has control of the mall park. ODOT has their headquarters building is on the mall. So DAS would be driving it, and we'd probably pay for it, and that's how we'd be doing it. But it would be a collaboration. And to be perfectly honest with you, it is the most complex because of the nature of the Capitol Mall, that it's sort of representative kind of position relative to the other area plans. It will be a little bit more complicated, but it will provide us with a tested template to deploy for agencies. Oh, we got a whole bunch of hands. Okay, so let's go. Jeremy was next. I'm sorry, Mike, does that answer your question a little bit?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is DAS's attempt to bring forward to the CPC partnership to develop a capital plan for the Capitol Mall so that we can put standards and ethos around the other remaining capital plans that other agencies owe. So we're going to pay for it. DAS will pay for it. And then we're asking if the CPC would go on the ride with us. We can come back, give updates, get your feedback, so that in the end, we can potentially even put together an enterprise solution contract to where other agencies, because I think there's 7 of them, Daniel, 9 of them, different capital plans, that way they could create them, and we could get all of our capital plans that are frankly outdated, that need to be updated.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, Michael.
Thank you. This is very exciting. So I'm looking forward to this process quite a bit. So I understand it's 2 parts. We have a plan to plan and then a plan process. So that's good to know. I think when it comes to not the planning process, but the actual planning of master plans, how is Salem staff integrated into that conversation? One of my, not so much concerns, but my hope is that as these master plans are developed, we give some careful thought to how those spaces are integrated into the rest of the community and the neighborhood, so that these capital spaces are not kind of islands, but instead are integrated into the community. So is there an opportunity for Salem staff to be part of that the master planning process? I mean, I'm glad to be here, but I'm not Salem staff.
We have a pretty good relationship with the planning department, and I think the expectation is that we would engage them on some level to have some way of reconciling the activity in that area plan relative to whatever, plans we have in place, if it's an overlay plan, if it's something where the plans are so out of date that there's bound to be a variety of mismatches in terms of, capacity and vision and all this kind of stuff. And so, yes, to answer your question, I think the expectation is that we would engage the city on some level to kind of validate the assumptions and as we develop policies out of that. So
Just
Thank
top
you.
of mind, it would be the city of Salem, it would be the Oregon Department of Transportation, because they have a building on the mall. It would be legislature. We would engage with all the tenant agencies within our buildings and really try to develop what the vision is into the future. And that's something that I think we've been missing, is with it being a dated plan and not engaging with the city and because that's our goal. We want it to be more accessible for the community, as there's some public-private partnership and some of the future buildings and create some new situations on the Capitol Mall, rather than it being the 1950. This is a state building, everybody else stay away. So we're really trying to look into the future.
That's great. When you look at our downtown, we've got this cluster of great, really almost world-class parks. And we have a downtown that's being, I think, it's being reinvigorated. We're doing some investment into it. And then we have the Capitol. And potentially, that's really a fantastic mix of assets and features for the city. And the more that we can kind of integrate those together as kind of a cohesive experience for people, I think the better results will be for all of us. But
We're
thanks.
gonna have to bring you onto the team full time.
I'm in the job force starting June, so let me know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right, Shane, you're up.
Yeah, just under the what's missing items, I think the glaring one that's probably not there are design standards. So I would encourage that inclusion. And I think that was evident when we were talking about the DAS exec building, about a year ago. We just didn't have standards for the window, opaqueness, anything that would really help us make decisions on these projects.
Okay, cool.
More of a
Mike?
Yeah, I really agree with Shane that that would be a great addition, design standards, and especially in the Capitol Mall area, some of the design standards for the mall have to work within the city design standards for roadways and those kinds of things. And, with our Vietnam Memorial, we went through about a 3-year land use approval process. And so as I think about the Capitol Mall, I really want to underscore what Michael said. If there was a way of not just working with the planning department of City of Salem, but actually working with them so that when the plan is approved, it could actually be approved or adopted also by the Salem City Council, so that implementation of individual projects that are within that umbrella of the area plan would be granted land use approval by the very fact that this is a land use process we're going through. So some way of streamlining it so that you don't go through the capital planning area process and then a project has to go through its own land use process might be something to think about.
Okay, that's good then. So in terms of what's missing, this is just my cursory kind of look at this is what I wanted the group to kind of think about and noodle over. I think our next meeting's in April. I'll send you those notebooks. The only plan that's not in there is the one for the state fair, because it was 100 pages, and I just thought that was gratuitous, because there's not much we have going on there. So if something comes up related to the state fair, we'll do it. But
Also, the binders are only 1-inch binders.
Yeah, they're only one. It just seemed like the state fair was the one that had to take a hike. But just to think about, what's missing and kind of come to the next meeting with an idea about a way we can kind of formalize that and take some notes. And so I've kind of laid out a little bit what I was thinking was, we would have some plan development criteria, and this would be just kind of like a draft outline, kind of rough components, kind of look at our existing manual and see what may be retained out of that versus what is something a completely different dimension that has never been thought of before, but it's really important for now. And then as we have our meeting, you would have that opportunity to review, and we would incorporate your thoughts into that draft. And eventually we'll get to the point where we're going to have to take some action. But the action is we're going to have to develop this manual that will serve the other agencies, but also are we going to engage a consultant? What does that look like? Developing a scope of work that around the capital mall planning part of it. And you can see that your role would be, you'd be engaged in that process. You'd be the ones reviewing the work in terms of totality, and then the finished product, and then ultimately you would adopt it, which would get registered in the administrative rules as the current plan. So there's plenty of points of intersection where the CPC plays a critical role, and I just wanted to gear you up because I've been teasing this for a long time, but I think our distractions are such now that we're poised to make some progress. So Jim, go for it.
Just real quickly, I'm encouraged by this. We've been talking about this for 3 years. We've been wanting to have a model, so this is as complicated of a model as we could do. And I mean, from a leadership standpoint, once we get this thing set up, it'll make it so much easier to put the rote process in for these other areas to get going on it. So in some respects, I'm kind of encouraging you to also imagine through the project, what's the timeline to get these other area plans up and running? So thinking, because some of them require budgeting and funding behind them, if we could say, we're going to have this done by end of 26, and we know that we'll have enough of a model that somebody could be lined up to start in 27 and so on. Because as I remember, and as we have thought through this in the past, part of it is Jeremy can, in many respects, control some of the funding that goes to this, but everybody else has to put it in their hopper and get the funding to go put that plan together for their area.
Yeah.
So
no, that's
just
important.
encouraging us to think through to the next step as well.
So
Great.
at the risk of repeating myself, because I think I presented this like a year ago to the majority of this room, with the intention with the Capital Mall proper is that DAS will solicit a contract, we'll bring in an architectural firm, and they will bring those decision points to us so that we can poke holes at it. And we're inviting you all to be a part of that. In the end, there'll be a standard, and we'll have a cost essentially figured out for the different capital plans. We can determine that, well, this cost us $300,000 to develop, so we assume these are the costs for the other agencies. And then that would be my day job then, is I would go and work with those agencies. I would put together a policy option package in partnership with them so that they would request the funding. And then to your point, there is no guarantee from there. We can make a recommendation. DAS doesn't have the authority to just say you will fund this, but we would have all the tools available to the agencies to be successful. But most importantly, then I know we have 4 different capital plans. I think it's 4. We can keep working through ours to keep the needle moving. So that would be the intention for this first one. I have funding in place. We'll put together an A&E contract, and then we'll start the process.
Jan.
Thank you. I would like to draw attention to the neighborhood associations in Salem as a stakeholder. And I say that having served on the board of the Grand Neighborhood Association for over a decade. That's the neighborhood immediately to the north of the Capitol Mall. There's a lot of state employees that live there. I'm one of them. I moved there purposefully because the jobs are in walking distance, and that appeals to a great bunch of us. But even those of us who don't work for the state, we like the neighborhood because the Capitol grounds kind of function as a park for us. Our kids play in the splash fountain on hot days, and we take our dogs for a walk. My kid learned to ride his bike there. And so there's great interest in the neighborhood association, at least mine, what's happening downtown. And as we're planning to plan, just want to call out that there's a stakeholder group that could have some valuable input. Thanks.
Yeah. So the neighborhood associations are on our contact list. So they get every communication, but in this case, this would be something where we want to do some outreach and have them be stakeholders, at least the adjacent neighborhoods. They'd be stakeholders in this to kind of discuss that, the intersection between state government and the neighborhood and what that intersection looks like.
I
Mike.
appreciate that.
Yeah. You're on my mute.
Just jumping on Jan's point, again, with the city of Salem, in a land use process, you got to contact the neighborhood association. So again, if you can weave these pieces together so that at the end of the day, you've done your public involvement in the correct way that is meaningful to the residents, but you also satisfy the requirements for the land use process approval from the city as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you. I just got to say that every time somebody says the word land use, I want to plug my ears and go, I'm not supposed to hear this. But on a real serious note, I do have a commitment. I need to leave by 4:30. I apologize for that. Forgot to mention it ahead of time. If it would be okay for me to request Mr. Bauer to take over as chair. Daniel, you're doing a great job. But I just want to leave in good standing with you all. So
Thank you,
Well, we're just
Mayor.
about
I will
done.
do my best to fill your shoes for the last 5 minutes or so. We'll see. Thank you. All right. So
That's all
Daniel,
I've got.
take us to the end, right?
That's actually the timing is
Mayor, you
appropriate
can
because that's
call
all
the
I've got.
meeting.
Yeah.
I thought maybe we had a lineup for public testimony or something, but I guess not.
We call for public testimony, so that is part of that's part of the process. So we've wrapped up new business. So we say we want to open up to public comment and give that option. And if usually nobody raises their hand, and then we adjourn.
Okay.
So that's where.
So as long as I'm here, can I move that we adjourn?
Is there?
Is it
Well,
time?
let's check. Make sure there's no public comment. I don't think there is. Nope. Okay. Now you would make a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Awesome. It was great to meet you all.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
See you
Bye,
all.
guys.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.